All right, Kurt, so what were the loading techniques for shotgun when you first started 3-gun back in '95?
Well, they basically, there was an open class, so they had the big long speed loader tubes. And then there were so many other different varieties of loading the shotgun, but they all came off the same thing. You had a shell belt, which was like this, only the 25-round elastic shell belts. People would load out of their pocket, believe it or not. And then there was people that would run their shell belt as a bandolier. And the techniques basically morphed from, I mean, everybody almost all did it like John Shaw, because John Shaw always said, load the gun naturally. And he'd just turn it over in his hand like this and just start putting shells in. Coming from the practical background of gun sight, they always said keep the gun up at your shoulder, load what you shoot. So what you would do is you'd shoot around, you'd reach down, grab a round out of your shell belt and put it in the gun. Or if you'd shot 2, you'd do it. But it was all single loading, either turning the gun over. Very few kept it at their shoulder because those techniques weren't out yet. And there was absolutely no quads, twins, anything like that even remotely hinted at.
So I noticed your shells are upside down in your little shell belt section there. Can you explain the reasoning behind that?
Yeah, actually I can. I would say they're the right side up. Gunsight used to teach them with the rim up. And what they would do to get the shell is come down, grab it, and then kind of flip it in your hand and put it in. Early on in competition, we figured out that loading shotgun was a huge part of 3-gun. So we started playing with the system. We looked at it and said, well, if we grab these 2, they come straight to the gun in the direction they should be going in. So we started running our shells up. And I once did a class for law enforcement, and they all made fun out of me until I said, well, if you go prone and gravel, those might detonate. Just messing with them. And then the next thing I knew, they turned them upside down. So it was kind of funny.
So when did the caddy systems like you have on your other side there come out?
Caddy system came out in '93, and I wish right off the top of my head I could tell you the guy that designed them. It was a guy that sold your fortune, and Garth Choate made the carrier for him, and it was called the 6-round combat shell caddy. So this system right here is from '92. The first time I saw it was in '95 when Eddie Rhodes had them on, and it was like, wow, that's a neat way to carry a bunch of shells in a very compact area.
And that was the standard for a long time. I think it's maybe in the past, what, 3-4 years maybe, that these other Load 2 and Load 4 systems have come out?
Yeah, actually the Load 2 and Load 4 system were out over in Europe way before anybody here ever even saw one. I remember going to the first European Shotgun Championships. All the German shooters had big chest plates, had Load 2. Of course, we didn't know what to call it. We just called it the German system. So those systems I've shot against for a long, long time. They just got to the United States when we had the first Pan American Shotgun Championship and the Europeans came. So the Italians showed up, the Germans showed up, and Ty Gentry from Triangle Shooting Sports actually conned one of the Germans, after getting him properly lubricated with alcohol, out of one of his vests. And from that, all the systems have really kind of morphed.
If you don't mind, just demonstrate for the viewers what loading out of the caddy system's like and how quick it can be done.
The caddy system is a fairly flexible system, and that's why I've stayed with it for so long. I load at the shoulder, so I'm not dropping the gun to get it out of my viewpoint. As I'm loading, I can actually engage a target. But basically, you grab 3 or 4, come up to the gun, leave your thumb riding on the gun, and every time you pull your arm back, it just indexes the shell into the gun. The nice thing about that system is I can do it prone, I can do it kneeling, I can do it sitting on my head. Whereas the other systems where you're taking shells off you doing this are pretty much stand up and shoot systems. You know, you can maybe do it kneeling, but it's awful hard.
And the caddy system is generally more durable than a lot of the Load 2 and Load 4 systems.
Absolutely. Matter of fact, the caddies I use at matches, I bought in 1995. This is the same caddy I bought in 1995.
How do you feel about how the Load 2, Load 4 systems and similar devices have impacted the sport?
On a personal feeling, they look kind of goofy. But what it has done is allow a person that doesn't have a lot of time to practice traditional weekend loading like I do, is hard to do. Unless you know a few of the tricks and you practice it a lot, it is a skill that is very hard to do. Whereas the Load 2, where you grab just 2 rounds in your hand and put the gun over so you can see the port, is very easy to learn to do well in a very short amount of time. The other nice thing about the Load 2 and the quad load systems is it doesn't take as much practice to maintain ability with it, if you will. Whereas we can, you got to do it 2 or 3 times a month, or else the skill kind of deteriorates. The Load 2, Load 4 system doesn't do that, because everything you do with the shell, whether it be this or this, is very vision driven. So you can see it, you can put them in, you can do it as fast or as slow as you need, the problem with that is it is vision driven. I can load this blindfolded. I can load it kneeling blindfolded. I can load it prone blindfolded. This, I have to be able to see the gun.
So potentially one of the limitations is you may lose track of what you're doing on a stage.
Yes, and we watched many people, like I said, I've seen the Load 4 and the Load 2 for a long time overseas. The largest amount of DQs I see are as if this is your 180 and you've got to travel that way, and they're right on the 180 and they go to load and they do this. And now they've broken the 180 and they go home. That's what happened to our U.S. team at the last World Shoot. 2 of our team members got DQ'd for the muzzle breaking that plane. Now, that's a niggling little detail, but it's everything for safety, and that's part of what we're doing here, is trying to maintain safety.
So
whereas at the shoulder, I know right when I'm on the 180 or close to it, and I'm not like this. So
you're going to be using the caddy systems for the foreseeable future then, just because you've mastered that system.
And I've got a lot of time behind it, and I don't see it. I guess I've always said it this way: when I start getting beat, when I can say it's solely on the loading speed, I'll look at changing. Because I mean, why not? Be adaptable. But so far, I'm not seeing that. Now, I'm not saying it won't happen by any means. I mean, some of these guys are just insanely fast loading quads. But it's still a stand-up technique. If you put them out of a weird, get them in a weird position or anything else, that technique falls apart a little bit. And because I've done this for so many years, it doesn't fail me.
All right, Kurt. Well, we really appreciate the history behind the sport and the history behind the advancements of techniques and technology. And hopefully you do well at the match.
I probably won't, because I'm just getting over back surgery, but I'm out here in the sun seeing my friends, and life is good. Thanks for letting me talk.